Good day. This is Darren Klibble, your state fire meteorologist for South Dakota. This is our fire weather situation report presented today, Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, and it's valid for both today and tomorrow. Just looking at some critical fire weather conditions that we're going to see across the state. Let's get started by looking at the past. This is precipitation over the past 2 weeks. So our dates are up here. It's from April 29th to yesterday on both charts. The left-hand chart is the total amount of precipitation that's been received. And you can see across western South Dakota and the Black Hills, it's been anywhere from kind of a tenth of an inch up to 6/10 of an inch. That was mostly falling on Saturday, May 9th. But the right-hand chart is percent of normal precipitation. Even though that part of the Black Hills got, a quarter, a half an inch of precipitation, that's still well below what they should have been receiving in the past 2 weeks. And generally under 40% of our average precipitation has fallen over the course of the past 2 weeks, even in the areas that did get rain. Really, the rest of the state, especially central South Dakota, has been exceptionally dry, very dry conditions persisting during a normally wet period. And this is departure from normal precipitation. So this shows you in inches, basically, how much precipitation we didn't get as compared to average over the past 2 weeks. And these red colors that you can see over kind of western South Dakota are in that 1.5 inch area. And really, if you look over southeastern South Dakota as well, it's even more than that. It's 1.5 inches down to 2 inches of precipitation lower than what they should have gotten for this time of the year. So my point is, it's been really dry over the past couple of weeks, and that correlates very well to enhanced fire weather activity, enhanced fire activity if we do get ignitions. Here's a couple of charts of energy release component. Up here this is for Wind Cave. And the one below is for Magpie Creek. That's kind of southwestern, south central South Dakota. ERCs at or above record high values for this time of the year. And we expect over the next few days to see those record high ERCs to continue. By Sunday and Monday, it should start to come back down as a little bit more moisture pushes into the region. But for now, setting record high ERCs for the time of the year. So let's get into the forecast. Here's today's high temperatures. This is a temperature map at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. And you can see that really southwestern South Dakota going to be in the 80s, right? Some of these areas that are a little bit more white, if you will, those are pushing 90, 92, something like that. So definitely warmer than average conditions across, especially western South Dakota. And that's where the primary critical fire danger is going to be seen today. Looking at relative humidity, southwestern South Dakota, we're looking at sub 10%, sub 12% RH, and across the prairies, kind of 15 to 20% RH. The other thing I want you to notice about this graph is it's showing wind as well, and winds are going to be out of the south to southwest over nearly all of the state. Generally speaking, you'll see winds today 10 to 20 miles per hour, but we're going to see some gusts getting up into that 15 to 25 mile per hour range. The highest gusts are going to be across northwestern South Dakota, where you can see gusts up into that 20 to maybe 35 miles per hour range. So again, red flag warnings are out for western South Dakota. Yes, it's going to be hot. Yes, it's going to be dry. Are we going to be critically windy? Yeah, it's kind of borderline, but it's going to be breezy enough to definitely push fire across the landscape if we get ignitions. One thing I want to point out is overnight tonight, we'll maintain kind of those south to southwesterly winds. But by morning tomorrow, we have a cold front that's going to be pushing through the state. And this is at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, so Thursday, May 14th, or 7 a.m. Mountain Time. And ahead of the cold front, over here over eastern South Dakota, we still have southerly winds. And you'll notice that this is a map of relative humidity. And yeah, at 7, 8 a.m., our relative humidity is going to be relatively higher in that 50 to 60% range. But then behind the front, we have these northwesterly winds. So if we do have extended attack or even initial attack overnight tonight, this front is something you must pay attention to. This is really important because, of course, when we go from a southerly wind, like you see over here, to a northwesterly wind, that is going to change the direction of your fire spread and potentially create a situation in which one of your flanks becomes the head of the fire. So pay attention to the timing of this front if you are on any initial or extended attack. Gusts with this front. Tomorrow morning, those breezy southerly winds over eastern South Dakota, and it's going to be breezy northwesterly winds behind the front over western South Dakota. And we're talking in both places, you could see gusts from 30 to maybe 45 miles per hour. And so it's going to be gusty as this front pushes across the state. By mid-afternoon tomorrow, that front is actually going to be well off to the east. It'll be probably just over southeastern South Dakota, but you'll see that our temperatures don't drop too much, maybe 10 degrees cooler than what we'll see today. So high temperatures, western South Dakota, really 75 to maybe 80 degrees. You might peak up closer to 90 just ahead of the front over southeastern South Dakota. But once again, you can make out that front right here as it pushes east across the state. This is tomorrow afternoon. Behind the front, we kind of get this west-northwesterly wind going on. And interestingly enough, we have some extraordinarily dry air that pokes into southwestern South Dakota, and that's having RHs bottom out in that 5 to 10% range with those northwesterly winds. So across the rest of the state, you should see 10 to 20%. Pretty dry conditions. Along the front, a little bit higher moisture, but still the wind shift is the biggest thing to pay attention to tomorrow. Okay, so post-frontal tomorrow, we'll see west to northwesterly winds and very dry air moving into the area. Winds gusting tomorrow, anywhere from 20 to maybe 45 miles per hour. Strongest wind gusts over northwestern South Dakota. Lighter winds elsewhere, but still kind of that critical type wind speed, 25 miles per hour is generally what we consider to be critical in terms of wind speeds. And so pay attention to that. Again, tomorrow we'll see mostly west to northwesterly winds after that front passes, and it's going to be accompanied by very dry air. Just kind of moving ahead, thinking ahead a little bit. This is Fridays. We kind of maintain that west-northwesterly wind in very dry conditions. RHs from kind of 8 to maybe 15% across the state. Winds close to borderline critical, so we might get those gusts in that 20 to 25 mile per hour range. Likely see critical conditions across the northern third of the state just because it's going to be a little bit windier up there. So Friday, we're not out of the woods yet. Saturday, wind shifts around to become kind of light out of the east and southeast. RHs come up a little bit, but now RHs are going to be bottoming out somewhere in that 15 to 25% range on Saturday across the state, but definitely lighter winds as it shifts to that east to southeasterly flow. So kind of a dry period today through Saturday. The nice part is, though, there's a little bit of chance for moisture on Sunday and Monday. So to summarize, fuels are back to record dry levels. Green up is really lagging behind where it should be at this point in time. I mean, it's May 13th and things are still pretty crispy outside. I got the veg dry index up here, just showing kind of vegetation's response to the dryness. And when we start to see these brown or orange colors, that means the vegetation is really, really struggling as compared to average. And so it's just showing drought conditions are present and the fuels are feeling those drought conditions. We got critical fire weather today and tomorrow, potential continuation of critical fire weather into Friday. The big thing to note, though, is this frontal boundary that's going to pass through kind of early tomorrow morning into midday tomorrow. It's going to push from west to east across the state. Southerly winds will become west and northwesterly winds as that front moves through your area. So pay attention to the timing of the front tomorrow. And we do have a chance of showers, maybe some storms around the area on Sunday and Monday. Some areas probably get a pretty good splash of rain, but I don't think it's going to be that nice widespread soaking rain that we need to see this time of the year. There's my contact information below. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or further concerns.